right, fams, here at MD, Bob Chick along with David Baye. We are wrapping things up, at least on the pro side, here at Soldiers and Sailors. Big group out there, David. We talked about this yesterday. 350 plus in the NPC, almost 100 pros coming in at 91. With just 3 divisions, so we're pretty packed up here. We just saw the conclusion of the pro prejudging. Let's get down right to it. Men's physique, not a lot of surprises there. I think most of the favorites pretty much came out. And what'd you have on that?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what we talked about last night is how it played out this afternoon. It was Mark Anthony, Tyler, and Michael Anderson.
The brothers.
The brothers, not brothers. Jason Poston and Anton Antipov. I thought it was pretty close between Jason and Mark. A lot of people that we talked to afterwards think that Jason is starting to get borderline too big in his delts and his chest. You guys should see that in the videos that John took and posted up. It's borderline. I like Jason's look. I like a little bit more of the muscular look in the men's physique division. They had Mark Anthony in the middle the whole time. They called out the last 3 again at the backside of it with Michael Anderson, Jason Poston, and Mark. Mark was in the middle the whole time. From everything we always see with the judging, looks like Mark has the win. I would put Jason in second. He did place ahead of Michael Anderson in Orlando just a few weeks ago. So look for a Mark, Jason, Michael, 1, 2, and 3 in the men's physique division.
Well, Jason definitely stepping up his game this year. Let me get your critique on Mark Anthony. Now, he's the reigning Olympia champion, the first Olympia champion in men's physique, of course, this year. How did he look in comparison to what we saw at the Olympia when he got the title?
I think he looked pretty much exactly the same as he did, which I think is a really good move for Mark. We interviewed Mark with George last night, and one of the big questions is, in a division where you don't want to be too big, you don't want to be too lean, there's all these stipulations as far as what you don't want to be. When you win an Olympia and the judges are essentially telling you this is exactly how we want you to look, do you make any off-season changes? And George's answer was no, not really. So I think he said Mark was a pound lighter than he was at the Olympia, so essentially the same physique. I think if you compare pictures, Mark, believe it or not, his waist might have gotten a little bit tighter. If I looked at pictures side by side, I don't know that that's necessarily
not the worst thing.
Not going to be the case, but from what I saw, if there was any changes with Mark, waist got a little bit tighter. It's already smaller. It's already tiny. Sure. So if there was any room for improvement for Mark to make, I think he did.
Well, that'll make for some interesting discussion online. Of course, where does the fine cutoff come between your bodybuilder with board shorts and your immense physique competitor? And I think the judges, of course, have a duty, basically, to the division to keep that on the left side. The minute you step over into bodybuilding, I think it loses the illusion of what it was really created for, and that is not another bodybuilding division, but a completely separate division, of course, in men's physique. Moving on to figure, David. Very competitive here in bikini, we'll get into in a minute, but that was a hell of a top 5 call out there, and another stacked deck with 28 competitors in the figure lineup. How'd you see that go down?
Again, not a lot of real big surprises. We had talked last night about Allison Fran, Camila Rodriguez. They were in the top of in the first call out. Look for them to be towards the top. A couple of the other names too, Andrea Calhoun, Andrea Cantoni, also in that top 5 mix. Those were 2 that I really didn't see, or they weren't really necessarily on my radar, being newer for me covering these divisions, and from the people that I talked to, they weren't really necessarily on a lot of people's radar. And that's what happens when you have a lineup that's this big without a lot of the favorites, is it really opens up doors for people who might not have placed as well in the past to come in and really make a name for themselves, and what better place to do it than here?
Well, Camila Rodriguez, obviously probably the highest ranked Olympian in this lineup, so I don't think it would be any surprise, of course, that she was favored and came out. Did she live up to what we saw at the Olympia stage and what people were expecting?
I think so. I think she looked fantastic. Allison was a little bit softer than what we had seen from her in the past, which is what she was instructed that she needed to do, as we spoke last.
Did she make those changes?
I think so, yeah. I think Allison was definitely softer than she was at the Olympia. When she was walking out, there wasn't these, crazy striations in her.
And let's keep things in context. When we say softer to her, she's usually ripped to the bone. Like I say, the knock on her isn't that it's too much conditioning. She's usually got striations, from the side and all that. So she actually had to knock it back a notch to come in a little bit softer, because, again, that's not bodybuilding, it's figure.
Absolutely. Some of the guys on the boards and all over the place will talk about the amount of work that figure and bikini girls need to put into these shows. And in Allison's past, she's come in just as shredded as a bodybuilder, so she's definitely putting the work in, probably a little bit too much. So for her, this prep probably, I don't want to say it was easier, but she got to back off from the diet or the cardio or both a little bit. Still a great look for her, but she made the changes I think she needed to make, Kamala's tough. So I
Kamala in the driver's seat. We'll see how that pans out tonight, of course, at the finals. But I'm fully expecting her to come out with a victory here, of course, and then we'll see her back on the Olympia stage come September. All right, on to the bikini division, and this was loaded. This was a lineup, boy. I mean, there was any one of 10 girls you really could have put in the top 5, but the judges had to break it down. How do we see that unfold as the first call out was out there by Sandy Williamson?
Well, the first call out, it was I think 6 girls, essentially the top 10 at the Olympia with the addition of Janet Leyu. From the Olympia, the only 2 girls I think that we were missing here from the top 10 at the Olympia, I might miss 1 or 2, but Ashley Kaltwasser and Natalia Mello. Otherwise, everybody was here. You had Cicherillo Robles, you had Amanda Latona, you had Stacey Alexander, you had Janet Leyu.
Narman Asria also in that mix?
Yeah, she had Nara in there. I was happy to see Janet up in there in the top group. They did run through all the call-outs, and they brought 4 back at the end. They brought Yashira, Amanda, Janet, and Stacey back. That's going to be...
That's an impressive crew. Now, it's interesting because Amanda is always really the perennial favorite. I mean, you heard the crowd out there. Of course, she's got a big fan base. They went nuts for her. And personally, I thought all 4 probably looked the best I've seen all 4, especially Janet, who's kind of a newcomer. But I tell you, man, she's tough.
Yeah, they had Janet and I believe it was Janet and Stacey on the outsides. I'd have to go back and look. So it looked like they were favoring Amanda and Yashira. But I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, and I got to lean towards Janet. I mean, she gets up there on stage, and in a division where a lot of these girls look, and it's not to take anything away from them, but they all look so fantastic. It's hard to pick apart their physiques and why you would pick one over the next. I think with Ashley Kaltwasser, when she steps out on stage, there's some clear things that put her in the front, and I think you're seeing some of the same things with Janet, where she just stands out a little bit more to me than some of the other girls. If I had to pick it, I would have Janet in first. That being said, the way the call-outs work and the way that they have people standing on stage, it looks like she'll be in 3rd or 4th. But in any regard, you hit the nail on the head. The girls all look like they could be at their best.
Oh, yeah. And I think a good point that you bring up, David. You're really talking about fine little details, and I mean small details that can separate first through 4th in this case. Again, there were 10 girls. Really, honestly, you could have made a case for anywhere in that top 5, top 6. So the judges certainly putting that together. But they got the A team on the judging panel out there as well with Sandy, with Steve. You got the whole crew. So, they bring in, of course, Jim Mannion show. You're going to expect nothing but the best out of that. But, honestly, a great lineup from the pros, of course. The NPC action still going on as we're speaking there. 350 plus. They'll be wrapping that up in an hour or so. We'll be back here for the finals. Now, tonight, David, the only Olympia preview that you get throughout the year, you don't get the top 6 or 7 bodybuilders anywhere on the stage other than Olympia weekend, except for here in Pittsburgh. How much stock should be put into that? And we see here about, Kai looking good. He looks better than Phil. But does it make any damn bit of difference here in May?
No, absolutely. It doesn't. To me, what you'll see tonight will be a great show for the crowd. Branch Warren is a week out from the Dallas show coming up. He's going to be here tonight. That's going to be awesome. It's nice to see the guys guest posing in contest shape. A lot of times you see the guys pretty far away or after a contest or whatever, so you're not getting these guys at their best. Branch will be at his best. Sean Roden, I think, was scheduled to guest pose, obviously, with a broken foot.
And the beast from the east, Big Rami, in the house. We saw Dennis yesterday. Obviously, Big Rami still recovering a little bit from his illness that he had. That set him back a few weeks, but Dennis showed me some recent pictures, and I tell you what, the guy, he's still a beast. I mean, maybe he's down to 310 now. He'll go back up. The Wolf, I heard, I don't know, came up ill or missed something, but I heard some rumor mill that he actually will not be here in attendance. We'll see if that unfolds tonight. But plenty of star power out on the stage, and Jay Cutler making an appearance on the stage.
Yeah, Cutler will be here. I know Dexter's hanging out in the crowd. I don't know if Dexter's slated to guest pose. I think the biggest talk that we're going to see come out of this show tonight is everyone's going to be doing the Rami and Kai comparisons. We all know that Phil Heath in the offseason, the guy takes breaks, and as he should. A lot of Olympia champions, guys that are top 5, they take longer breaks. You see him in the offseason, and you might not say, hey, that guy is the best in the world when you have him next to a guy like Kai who stays big and really lean all year round. Obviously, Rami's got a show coming up in a few weeks, so he's going to be in better shape than Kai. But I think what we're going to see in the boards in the days and weeks following this show is all kinds of Kai and Rami comparisons. who's the biggest guy to step foot on stage.
Let me ask you this: if you're Big Rami, I mean, are you going after Phil? I mean, you kind of making a statement out here and kind of getting a little more aggressive and a little more comfortable. You know, last year he was a kid, in the candy store. He was kind of wide-eyed and taking it all in, as much a fan as he was a competitor. Now you're into year 2. Now you got to get a little bit, a little seasoned veteran kind of thing in there. You were obviously in the top mix at the Olympia, but I think this year he makes a statement. I don't know if I'm running his camp. I think I'm telling him wherever Phil goes, you go.
I think he's definitely going to chase Phil around. I think he'll chase all those guys around. But as we said, it's not really a fair comparison because he's 2 weeks out from a contest, and everybody else here other than Branch is kind of in their off-season shape. So of course, when you see pictures from what's happening on stage, I'll predict that it's going to look like Rami makes Phil look bad.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I think it will. Rami is huge, and even comparing the Olympia pictures, I don't think there was a single pose where Phil really dominated Rami. I mean, you go from the front poses, Rami's as thick as anybody, and the back poses, especially the back double bicep, where Phil usually shuts the door on people. Great pose for Rami. Rami being in contest shape, Phil being off season. I think Rami will look better than Phil. You're going to say he looks better than Mr. Olympia, but the Mr. Olympia isn't May 3rd. The Mr. Olympia is in September, so for as much fun as it will be to make these comparisons, it really doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means something to these fans out here. This place will be packed to the rafters. Standing room only, once again, at Soldiers and Sailors here, where the show has been for many years now, so expect a great finals tonight. We'll see how close we are on our predictions, of course, and the boards will light up because, I don't know what I'm talking about, and, who's the new guy, and, he doesn't know anything. So, but that's the fun of it, folks. Get online, put your views out there and your opinions. We'll take it all and come back out swinging. You know that. So we will be back. We'll do a wrap-up, of course, David, as soon as the bell tolls here tonight. I'll be on the stage, of course, sharing the mic with Gary Udit. And we will be back continuing coverage here at the Pittsburgh Pro. Keep your eyes tuned, folks, on MD. We got the wrap-up later on tonight, tomorrow. Light it up, boys. For David Baye, this is Bob Chick. We're out.